In the Buddha's presence, there was a tower, adorned with the 7 treasures, 500 yojanas in height, that rose up out of the earth and stood suspended in the air. Festoons of jewels hung down, and 10,000 million jeweled bells were suspended from it. And it was so high it reached to the heavenly palaces of the heavenly kings. A loud voice issued from the treasure tower, saying, "Excellent, excellent!" A bodhisattva named Great Joy of Preaching, who understood the doubts in the minds of all the beings of all the world, said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, for what reason has this treasure tower risen up out of the earth? And why does this voice issue from its midst?" Shakyamuni responded, "A Buddha named Many Treasures made a great vow, saying, if in the lands of the 10 directions there is any place where the Lotus Sutra is preached, then my tower will come forth, and I will appear in that spot to testify to the sutra and praise its excellence." All the Buddhas in all the lands in the entire universe gathered to see the Many Treasures Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha, with the fingers of his right hand, opened the door of the treasure tower, and all the members of the assembly caught sight of Many Treasures and heard him say, "Excellent, excellent, Shakyamuni Buddha, that you can take a great wisdom of equality, the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law, and preach it for the sake of the great assembly. It is, as you say, all that you have expounded is the truth." Shakyamuni seated himself beside Many Treasures and lifted all the members of the assembly into the air, where the treasure tower was suspended. And in a loud voice, he addressed all the kinds of believers, saying, "Before long, the thus come one will enter Nirvana. The Buddha wishes to entrust this Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law to someone so that it may be preserved. Who is capable of broadly preaching the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law in this Saha world? Now is the time to come forward and make a great vow. After the Buddha has entered extinction in the time of evil, if one can honor, embrace, and preach this sutra, or write it out and cause others to write it out, or even for a little while read the sutra or expound it to even one person, or listen to and accept it and ask about its meaning, that will be difficult indeed. One who can thus uphold the sutra wins the admiration of the Buddhas. He will be the eyes of the world, and in this way one will quickly attain the unsurpassed Buddha way." In the assembly, 500 arhats and 8,000 persons rose from their seats, pressed their palms together, turning toward the Buddha, made this vow, "World-honored one, we shall make a vow that in lands other than this one, we will broadly preach this sutra." Why? Because in this Saha world, the people are given to corruption and evil, beset by overbearing arrogance, shallow in blessings, irascible, muddled, fawning, and devious, and their hearts are not sincere. And thus saying, these persons all left the assembly. Then the bodhisattvas who had gathered from the lands of the other directions stood up in the midst of the assembly, pressed their palms together and said, "World-honored one, if you will permit us in the age after the Buddha has entered extinction to diligently and earnestly protect, read, write, recite, copy, and offer alms to the sutra in the Saha world, we will preach it widely throughout this land." But the Buddha said to these bodhisattvas, "Leave off, good men. There is no need for you to protect this sutra. Why? Because in this Saha world of mine, there are bodhisattvas and mahasattvas who are as numerous as the sands of 60,000 Ganges, and each has a retinue equal to the sands of 60,000 Ganges. After I have entered extinction, these persons will be able to protect, read, recite, and widely preach this sutra." When the Buddha spoke these words, the earth of the 1,000,000,000-fold countries of the Saha world all trembled and split open, and out of it emerged immeasurable thousands, 10,000s, millions of bodhisattvas and mahasattvas. The bodies of these bodhisattvas were all golden in hue, with the 32 features and an immeasurable brightness. Each one was the leader of his own great assembly, and each one pressed his palms together, gazed at Shakyamuni Buddha and inquired, "World-honored one, are your illnesses few? Are your worries few? Are your practices proceeding comfortably? Do those whom you propose to save readily receive instruction? Does the effort not cause the world-honored one to become weary and spent?" The world-honored one spoke, just so, good men. The thus come one is well and happy, with few ills and few worries. The living beings are readily converted and saved, and I am not weary and spent. Then the great Bodhisattva spoke, saying, "Excellent, excellent, great hero, world-honored one. The living beings are readily converted and saved and know how to inquire about this most profound wisdom. And having heard, believe and understand, we are, accordingly, overjoyed." The world-honored one praised the bodhisattvas of the earth, saying, "Excellent, excellent, good men, you know how to rejoice in your hearts for the thus come one." At that time, Maitreya turned to the Buddha and made this inquiry. Immeasurable thousands, 10,000 millions, a great host such as this was never seen in the past, with great dignity, virtue, and diligence. Where have they come from? What causes and conditions bring them together? Who preached the law for them? What sutra do they embrace? What Buddha way do they practice? World-honored one, from times past I have seen nothing like this. In this whole multitude, there is not one person that I know. Suddenly they have come up from the earth. I beg you to explain. At that time, the world-honored one said, "These bodhisattvas have all been living in the end, the world of empty space, underneath the Saha world. Ajita, you should understand, these bodhisattvas for countless kalpas have practiced the Buddha wisdom." Maitreya said, "The Buddha attained the way very recently, yet those he has helped to gain success are so many. World-honored one, how, in that short time, could you have accomplished so much work as a Buddha?" The Buddha said, "Since I attained Buddhahood, immeasurable asamkhya kalpas have passed. Constantly I have preached the law, teaching countless millions of living beings. I am always here, preaching the law. Even when living beings in their befuddlement do not see me, I am always here. And at all times I think to myself, how can I cause living beings to gain entry into the unsurpassed way and quickly attain the body of a Buddha?" The Buddha said to all gathered here, "These bodhisattvas are able to believe and accept and teach these sutras. If you see a teacher of the law who has cultivated virtues such as these, bow your head before his feet in salutation, and in your mind imagine you see the Buddha. If an evil person should constantly curse and revile the Buddha, that person's offense would be rather light. But a person who defames those who propagate this sutra, that offense would be very grave. One who tries to expose the faults or evils of that person, whether what he speaks is true or not, he will in his present existence be afflicted with white leprosy and other severe and malignant illnesses. Rather, you should rise and greet him from afar, showing him the same respect you would a Buddha. These persons are great bodhisattvas who voluntarily relinquish the reward due for their pure deeds, and because they pity living beings are born in this evil world to broadly expound the sutra." At that time, Shakyamuni rose from his law seat, patted their heads 3 times and spoke, "For immeasurable asamkhya kalpas I have practiced this hard to attain law. Now I entrust it to you. You must single-mindedly propagate this law abroad, causing all living beings everywhere to hear and understand. If you do all this, then you will have repaid the debt of gratitude that you owe to the Buddha. When the Bodhisattvas heard the Buddha speak these words, they experienced a great joy that filled their bodies, and they raised their voice saying, "We beg the world-honored one to have no further worry. We will honor, embrace, recite, preach, and teach this sutra."